Welcome to the writer reads The Strays of Lunar One, Book 1, The Unwilling, Chapter 31, Alpha 9. Who's Florey? The man asked, just as his chest pocket pinged. He backed up a step, reaching for his pocket. Turn around and put your hands on the wall. Oliver caught Lewis's questioning look and nodded, and the two of them did as they were told. It was a tense few seconds as the fixer checked his handheld. This way, he said shortly after. The fee's been paid and you've stirred up a hornet's nest among the station enforcers. Oliver turned and felt Lewis move with him. He noticed the blaster had been slung and the man moved swiftly as he took them through to another back room. With a grunt, the fixer slid a section of the floor to one side and dropped into the hole. Hurry, he instructed, and close the hatch after you. Oliver gestured for Lewis to lead the way, and then secured the hatch behind them. The room beneath was small and sparsely furnished. Doors led from the centre of each wall, and the fixer took one that would lead them perpendicular to the way they'd arrived. In the dimness of the safety lights, Oliver took a good look at their host. He was of spindly build and narrow-featured. When he spoke, his voice was light and fast. Our Hitaroa hasn't forgiven you yet. Seems they've got an injured Odyssey agent on board. You have anything to do with that? He'd reached the end of a short corridor and paused, his hand hovering above the access panel of the door. Oliver nodded. He got us away from some hunters and was hurt doing it. The fixer snorted. But you didn't know that when you put him under, did you? Oliver's face coloured. No. The man shrugged and cycled the door. Why did you run? From Odyssey? Oliver asked, and the fixer nodded. They wouldn't have let us go. Live free or die? The man asked. Not quite, but we'd like to live on our terms if we can, Oliver told him. And you're joining a lupari mercenary force. The lupari look after their own. Why not a wolf or a human force? I couldn't think of one I trusted. Oliver followed him into the next room. What he saw there brought him up short. You're showing a lot of faith. The man bared his teeth. And do you think you'd live if I was harmed? It's almost cute. Ignoring the look on Oliver's face, he took a seat behind the wall of monitors and computer boxes. Florey gave me enough to get you quarters in one of the spacer districts. You sure that's safe? Lewis asked, and the fixer gave him a condescending look. It's as safe as any other district like it. If you mean is it safe from you being discovered by someone who might have seen your faces on a bounty poster or the alert sent out by the Justiciars, then the district I've sent you to is as safe as you'll get before you find an outfit willing to recruit you. What do you mean? I mean it's the district out-of-work spacers end up in if they don't find a ship before their savings run out. Oliver leant against the wall. Oh. Lewis looked from the fixer to his alpha. Is that bad? It's... Oliver sighed and looked at the man. Did Florey also pay you to tell us which of the companies is our best bet? You're assuming there's more than one, the man told him. There is, but only two, maybe three. I'd tell you to take a risk on. After them, I'd suggest you make contact with the Luparian governance and offer your services on their guard forces. Oliver paled. But we'd never be able to leave. The fixer shrugged. So? It's not like you can leave now, either. Lewis looked at Oliver, his face pale. What does he mean? He means we're grounded for a while, Oliver replied. There's nowhere in space we can go that we won't be taken. Not without being adopted into a merc team, or staying grounded for a couple of years at least, the man confirmed. His fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard as he spoke. He gave it a couple more taps and then looked at them, trying to make sure there's space for you aboard the shuttle. He slipped a communications bud into his ear and pushed back his chair, taking them to a door on the other side of the room. Might take a day for you to get clear. In the meantime, it'd be best if you were somewhere you couldn't be scanned. We've got some new arrivals in system, and Florey paid me enough to ensure you make planetfall without them finding you, and to keep silent after. He paused, giving them a pensive look. You know she works for Odyssey, don't you? Oliver froze, taking careful control of his voice. I thought she'd retired. The man gave him a pitying look. No Odyssey agent ever gets to retire. Well, she's doing her best, Oliver replied. The man shrugged. Have it your way, but if Odyssey pull her chain, she'll answer. You better hope you're not too high on their list of priorities, or your Florey will find herself compromised before any of you can blink. And all the principles of honour be damned. Oliver took a deep breath. And what about you? You Odyssey too? The fixer shook his head, a faint smile curling his lips. No, I served on a merc force before they decided I was superfluous to requirements, and that I could retire anywhere in the universe as long as it was here and I was useful to them. So, lucky you didn't work for Odyssey then, huh? Lewis quipped, and the man smiled and opened another door. Shuttle will be here in 4 hours. I'll come for you then. He turned to go, pausing at the door. We'll have to smuggle you on and off. You'll be travelling in weapons boxes and you'll be locked in. I hope you don't get claustrophobic. Oliver stared at the door a full minute after it had slid closed behind him, and then he looked around the room. Talk about your bare necessities, he muttered, dropping into a plasteel chair near a small round table. He picked up the cards in the middle of it and began absent-mindedly shuffling. Lewis came and took the chair opposite. At least they make sure you're not going to get bored. Oliver looked at him. You still sure this is what you want to do? Lewis shrugged. Honestly, what's the alternative, bro? Oliver sighed. I am really sorry, man. Lewis leaned forward and tapped on the table. Shut up and deal, Mr. Alpha, sir. Momentarily robbed of words as his wolf's startled outrage fought his human's bemusement, Oliver shook his head and did as he was told. You know, you'll make a good beater, he said, letting the first cards fall. They're in demand in a pack. You won't be long without a place. You talk like you're the one who's likely to be turned down, Lewis told him. Oliver played his hand and caught his friend's eyes. Funny you should mention that. He picked up his win and went on to explain pack politics and why another alpha might not be welcome into the hierarchy as they played. He'd give Lewis this. The man was a quick study. So what you're telling me is that I'll do well under any alpha, but that I'll always respond best to you. Oliver nodded. At this stage, anyway, it won't always be the case. He couldn't hide the despondency in his voice, and Lewis laughed, clapping him on the shoulder. But it is for now, he said, sounding far too happy with the idea. For werewolves, Oliver admitted. Who knows how it works with the lupar? Shut up and play, Lewis said. I'm hungry, and I need something to keep my mind off it. Oliver swore softly to himself and laid his cards on the table, moving around the room and looking for anything hidden behind the panels lining the wall. Lewis watched him, frowning in puzzlement. What are you doing? Looking for a... Ah, Oliver replied, just as he found the kitchenette tucked away behind the panelling. Replicator. They'd eaten and were sleeping, rolled in the blankets they'd found tucked away in a storage cupboard when the fixer returned. He looked them over with a jaded eye as they unwrapped themselves and folded their bedding. Just making yourselves at home, were you? He asked, stepping into the room and beckoning to the 8 men and 2 boxes that followed. Figured it was all part of the cost, Oliver told him, and the man snorted. Lucky for you it is. He gestured to the boxes. Get in. Oliver looked from his face to the nearest box and then at the men who'd come in. They looked back, their faces as blank as the walls around them, but hiding more secrets. You want planet side or not? The fixer demanded. Or do I need to put you under to fulfill my contract? At his words, 2 of the men took a step back, raising their blasters and sliding the setting down to stun. Oliver raised his hand, the gesture making at least one blaster jerk uncertainly. Eyeing its wielder warily, Oliver stepped toward the larger of the 2 boxes. Come on, Lou. Let's get it done. He ignored the uncertain look Lewis gave him and stepped into the box, lying down and folding his arms across his chest before closing his eyes. As much as he was resigned to the idea of being shut into a box, he still didn't want to see the lid coming down. He didn't have to be claustrophobic, to dislike closed spaces, or to have a bad reaction to them. By closing his eyes, he triggered his body into sleep. It seemed like the best thing he could do. Following their progress through the tunnels was impossible. He kept waiting for them to return to the trapdoor and the hustle and jerk that would entail as they were lifted to the ground floor. When it didn't come, he let the slight rocking motion of the box lull him into semi-consciousness. Well, you travelled a lot better than your friend, were the words that greeted Oliver when the lid came off. They brought him to full wakefulness, and he sprang out of the box, searching for Lewis. Where is he? He looked around the room, realizing it was just him, Lewis, and the fixer. Of the men who'd carried them inside, there was no sign. Easy, big guy. We let him out before he could hurt himself or draw any attention. He's just over there. Oliver followed the direction of the man's pointing hand and saw Lewis sitting calmly on the edge of the bottom of the bunk that stood along one wall. The man looked a little pale, but otherwise okay. Don't like boxes, huh? Oliver asked. I was fine until we hit Atmo. And then? Lewis looked sheepish. You didn't feel it? Oliver shook his head. I slept. Lucky you. The fixer huffed a short laugh. You'll get used to it. He looked at Oliver. If you go sit by your friend, we'll clear these boxes, he said, reaching into his jacket and pulling out 2 envelopes. And you need to go over these too. Florrie sends her regards and wishes you all the luck. He handed the envelopes over and headed for the door. Oliver and Lewis stared at him, then shuffled back on the bunk and watched as the 8 men returned, 4 at a time, to remove the boxes. They didn't even look at the 2 men on the bunk, although they did acknowledge the fixer. He handed each of them a cred stick as they left. Much appreciated, he told them as they carried the boxes out the door. Tell your boss the transfer's already been made. He knows, one of the men advised him as he departed. Otherwise, we'd be taking you to explain. Haven't missed a payment yet, the fixer assured him. It's not worth my hide. The other man made no reply, and the fixer closed the door after them. I take it you have all you need? Are we still covered for recommendations as to who to join and who to avoid? Oliver asked, and the man gave him a sly smile. I can tell you this. The Lupar work in clans, not companies, and every member of a clan works for the clan's good. Every clan has its own businesses and branches, including mercenary companies, but they share one ethos and are loyal to their members and those that come under their protection. He paused, and Oliver nodded. Like packs. The fixer cocked his head. Their ties are stronger than those you'll find in a pack, in that were-packs lose cohesiveness and split as they get bigger, whereas the Lupar clans grow stronger. For them, the clan is all. He paused. They adopt you. Their expectations are that you'll be bound to them for life, just like you were born Lupar. You sure you want that? Oliver's inner wolf stilled, and its ears pricked with interest. A pack? For life? He glanced at Lewis, and the younger man shrugged. It's your call, bro. Oliver shook his head. Nope, this one's yours. I already got you trapped in one life-changing situation. I don't want to land you in another. Lewis let out a deep breath. You know, for an alpha, you could be at least a bit more alpha-y, he complained, and the fixer laughed. Don't worry, if he takes you into a clan, he will be. Oliver cast the man a sharp glance, and the fixer added, he won't have a choice. Lewis scowled and looked Oliver in the eye. Speaking of choices, he said, this one's the best we've got. I say we take it. He managed a lopsided grin. I could do with a few more bros. It sounded like bravado to Oliver, but he didn't argue. His friend had a point. They were out of options. He turned his attention to the fixer. Your recommendations? Star Striders and Hawk Dancers are the only 2 I'd recommend, he told them. Borderline would be the Night Hunters, but I'd be wary of them. Oliver's gaze sharpened. Why? The fixer looked troubled. There are rumors, he replied. I'm looking into them. Noted. Oliver waited. Is there anything else? The fixer gave him a sour look as he answered. Avoid the Star Eaters. If the first 2 won't take you, throw yourselves on the mercy of the Star Shadows. They rule here. He studied them for a long minute, then shrugged. That's all I got to say. Gotcha, Oliver replied, and thank you. The fixer looked embarrassed and glanced around the room. Now, if you gentlemen have everything you need. He flipped them a card. I'll be on my way. Oliver slid out of the bunk, his documents in one hand as he extended the other. Thank you, he said again. The man took his hand and shook it briefly. Pleasure doing business, he returned, and left. As soon as the door had closed behind him, Lewis slid off the bunk. What now?